Mr Speaker.
David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to follow in the footsteps of that great speech from a very fine new member of this Parliament. They're just showing the new leadership that the National Party has delivered to this country, and well done to new members such as Amy Adams, who have delivered a very strong focus for the National Party in the South Island. So well done. When we look at the budget and what's happening in this economy at the moment, I think it's important that we actually take a bit of a sideways step and actually look at what would have actually happened if National hadn't have been here. If National hadn't have been here, what would the case be for the New Zealand economy? Well, it would have been the continuation of the poor and misguided management of the previous Labor government. A government that put our country into recession before the rest of the world had a financial crisis. A government that bought assets that were beyond the value of those assets, such as Kiwi Rail. A government that made consecutive promises at elections about buying middle New Zealand's votes without taking into account the long-term effect of those costs on our economy. That is the tribute that you get from the Labor government that was in the past. They bought votes, they didn't care about the future, and they banked on the rest of the country paying for it. And there was a wake-up call. The wake-up call was the world recession, and that came to all countries, and it was deep and dark. And that wake-up call has been something that this government has had to grapple with. Not only dealing with those international concerns, but dealing with the mismanagement that set us up in a very difficult predicament. And if the Labor Party had been in government, they just wouldn't have known what to do, because they were just taxing and spending to buy votes at elections. They had no plan, no direction, and no foresight for what they wanted to see as a strong economy going forward. And the thing about that is that it would have left New Zealand in a very difficult position. We would have become the Greece of the South Pacific if the Labor Party had been in charge. And the Labor Party knows that, and they are sitting there and they know that they couldn't have dealt with that situation, and they're looking across and thinking, why couldn't we make those firm and right decisions that the National Party's making now? And the reason is they couldn't, because they just don't know. They've got no policy, they've got no direction, and they've got no ability to make that direction happen for New Zealand. So New Zealanders are justifiably proud of their government, are justifiably supportive of their government, because they know that it is the best government for these very difficult times. And they know that in the leadership of John Key, they have somebody that is an international politician of repute and is also somebody that's providing vision and clarity to a country which has been long lacking in those attributes because of previous leadership the last 9 years. And so we are very proud to be part of a government that's setting out a budget which takes a balanced approach to where we need to go. And I say balanced in the sense that we realise that we have certain commitments, albeit them made by previous governments, or be them made for the wrong reasons, or be them being there, we have to still deal with them, and we are dealing with them. We are also balanced in the sense that we are looking forward to what we need to do to build a stronger economy, so that we actually send the right signals and incentives, and we don't put policy in and make spending decisions based on just winning elections. And that's a difficult balance to do, especially at this time. But we have managed to do that, and we've done that by doing it in a sure and slow but direct manner, by making decisions that people can understand and live with, but at the same time are sending the right signals and incentives to New Zealanders and the economy. And then we just have one of the Labor members come in and say, what's this rubbish? Well, he's just walked into this room now. He would have no idea of what the economy requires. He didn't even make a budget bid when he was the minister. So I don't see how he could have any help in making the economy work.
Point of order, the Honourable Paragira.
Mr Speaker, that is not true. I made several bids when I was minister.
That's not a point of order. That's a debating point.
Yeah.
David Bennett.
If he made several bids, we all missed them. But that member wouldn't even known if he made a bid anyway. He wouldn't have known if he made a bid anyway. But when we look at what we need to do for New Zealand going forward, we need to send the right signals and incentives. The 400 people that lost their jobs, that's what the Labour members are going on about. It's all about creating fear, saying what about the 400 members, the people that have lost their jobs? Or what about the 40,000 that would have lost their jobs if the Labour Party had been in government? That's the detail that the people over that side of the room need to understand. But we're not going to look at it like that. We're going to look at it, what we need to do for this country going forward. And what do we need to do to be competitive in the world economy? We need to have our people getting a decent education, getting a decent job, and getting the rewards for working hard and making the right choices. That's the factors that will lead to a strong country and a strong economy. Our future is in our people. We back them, we back their abilities to succeed, and we are sitting in the best part of the world for the next 50 years. New Zealand is in the right place at the right time to take advantage of the world recovery, and especially the recovery in this part of the Asia-Pacific region. But we need to give our people the tools to take advantage of it. And that's where we're going. We're going to send the right signals and incentives so that young New Zealanders stay in this country. They build a future in this country. They may go overseas and get experience, but they come back and make New Zealand their home and make this the strongest country we can be. That is the future for New Zealand. That is where we are going. We have set the tax system there so that people see those signals and incentives, and that was what the budget was about. It wasn't carrying on the past injustices of looking at trying to make money out of property which the Labour Party continually abused and said the Reserve Bank, and why are they putting up interest rates, blaming other people when they had 9 years to deal with that, that economic distortion. They didn't do it. They didn't have the guts to actually make the calls, but National has had the guts to make those calls, and we've actually gone out there and given those young people the direction we need. Now, if you're growing up in New Zealand, you know that you need to get the best possible education you can get. Get the base post that a young person will want to get the best possible education, that young person will want to get the best possible job, and they will want to make the most money that they can so that they can have the goods and services that they desire for themselves, their families and their communities going forward. And that community aspect is something that we are building through New Zealand. And New Zealanders are understanding that they have got the opportunities that other countries have. And we're not going to be looking across the ditch or anywhere else and saying we can't achieve these things. We believe in the future of this country. We're giving the New Zealand people the tools to take advantage of that future. And that is quite a different approach from what Labour would have done. Labour would have looked across the ditch, and it would have been abusive in the way that saying, being jealous and saying we can't do that. It's beyond us. That New Zealanders can't do that. Just accept what you've got. This is as good as it gets. Just trust us. We'll redirect the money, and this is as good as you'll ever get. That's the mentality that the Labour Party wanted to build in New Zealanders. Well, we want to see an ambitious and successful New Zealanders where that isn't the mentality, where the mentality is one that you have the option of going out there and achieving your goals, and that New Zealanders can see that they can prosper, they can succeed on the international stage, and they can succeed at home as well. And that is the nature of the directional change that New Zealand has encountered since having a national government. And John Key is inspirational in that, because as a leader he emphasises and epitomises what New Zealanders can and will achieve. And that's what the public of New Zealand like. They like to see that we can do these things. They like to see somebody that listens and makes decisions, and they like to see a government that makes the right decisions for people based on the right commercial realities, not decisions based on winning votes at election time and not having to pay for those things until somebody else has to in the future. And that is the point of difference and so that is why it is so strong and successful, this government at this time, and we